welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench Podcast, man. We're going to be talking about Western Conference Finals Game 2, OKC versus Minnesota. And before we get into that, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that comment section below. But make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, man. We're on the road to 400 subs, man. So make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. It is absolutely free to support, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's go and get into it, man. OKC, they take a commanding 2-0 lead series in this Western Conference Finals over the Minnesota Timberwolves, with Game 3 heading over to the Target Center in Minnesota's home court. And I want to say this. The OKC Thunder defense is something special, man. You know, I like people like to call them aggressive defense. I like to say their defense is an opportunist defense. And what I mean by that is that they create opportunities to be able to create their offense. When their offense not getting going in the half court, or their offense get a little stagnant or shots not falling, they know they can be able to create opportunities off deflections, being scrappy, using their quick hands, in the passing lanes and things like that. That's the opportunistic defense. I don't know if I'm saying that right, man, but y'all know what I'm saying, bro. Don't get the jokes me in the comments, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. Opportunist defense. They take the opportunities that the Minnesota Timberwolves get them, and they be able to get out and run and transition. And that's how they've been able to, take this commanding 2-0 lead series. Because when you really look at it, I think Minnesota, when Minnesota able to set up their defense in the half court, I think they've been doing a fairly good job of, trying to contain, the OKC Thunder offense, which, obviously, it's going to be hard to, try to contain Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's been doing this all season long. And, he's an MVP for a reason. And, he make tough shots, and he going to do, MVP type things, being one of those type of players that he is. So, he going to get his. You just want to make it hard on him, make it difficult, make him see a crowd of bodies and things like that. But tonight, Jalen Williams had it going. Chet Holmgren get it going. It's going to be OKC Thunder going to be a very hard team to beat. And when you got Chet with 20 plus, when you got Jalen Williams in 20 plus, then you got obviously SGA giving you 32, 34 points. If that's OKC, it's already hard enough to beat them with the type of defense that they play on the defensive side of the ball. Then you got three of their top guys on the offensive end giving you 20 plus points. They're just asking for a recipe for disaster. OKC, they're doing a good job of, making sure Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle see, a swarm of bodies whenever they try to get into the lane. They're doing a good job of closing off straight line drives without letting them get 2 feet in the paint, to create, to kind of break down OKC defense. They've been doing a good job of that, being at the nail, being at the help side, making sure Anthony Edwards see at least 2 guys every time he try to get past the defender. They forcing Minnesota to make outside shots, which tonight some of the shots was falling, sometime they wouldn't. And, a lot of times in the NBA, it's really not about, sometimes it's all not just about missing and making shots. Sometimes it's just about, just making timely shots. And tonight, OKC, they dared Minnesota to try to beat them from the 3-point line. And obviously, they kind of going in the first half, what kept Minnesota within, striking distance in the first half. But in the second half, they weren't able to make timely shots when they needed to from beyond the arc. And I feel like that's, and that's really what, how OKC won this game tonight. Getting out in transition, relying on their defense, leaning on Minnesota on the defensive side of the ball, creating opportunities to be able to run in transition and get, transition points. And I said this at the game 1 that the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're going to have a hard time trying to beat this OKC Thunder team if they be able to keep turning the ball over. Sometimes, and I know I sound like a broken record, but thing is, it all these games just showing you that it's coming to fruition. Like, it's a difference between a dead ball turnover and a live ball turnover. I'm not saying that turnovers is okay by any stretch. But if you're going to be, because it's not like the Minnesota Timberwolves is getting 20 plus turnovers every night. First game they had, 17 turnovers. OKC had 12. That's a 5 turnover differential. But the difference is, how many of those 17 turnovers were loud ball turnovers, and they was able to get out in transition and score off those turnovers and create opportunities, in transition and things like that. You look at tonight, they had 15 turnovers. OKC only had 4. Which you're going to be able to try to turn the OKC Thunder over more than 4 times. I think OKC did a very good job of taking care of the ball. Playing within the system, playing within the offense, making sure they was under control, and making sure they try to get at least a shot up at the rim every time down. And that's what Minnesota got to take a page out their book. Obviously you want to try to play fast, where you not let the OKC Thunder defense set up in the half court, but you got to be able to play fast, but you got to still be able to play under control while you playing fast. And they having a hard time with that right now. Cause like I said, 14 turnovers. I'm not saying that's good, but it's not bad by any stretch. If you can get anything 12 and under turnovers, that's very ideal. But 14, that's not bad or any stretch of imagination. But the thing is, when you allowing out of those 14 turnovers, I want to say 8 of those turnovers is at least lob ball turnovers, and they running the other way, either getting a dunk, getting an and one, getting open layups, transition threes, putting the Minnesota defense in disadvantages, and things like that. So they got to be able to control that. But this was a good win from OKC. They defended their home court. They did what they supposed to do. Hats off to them. I don't want to take nothing away from what they did in these first 2 games, because obviously, I want to say this. I said this at the game 1. Like, these games are very, very more closely than the final score shows. Cause because OKC, they go on these runs obviously to push out the lead, but the games be seeming like the games be seeming much tighter and much closer than really what it is, than what the score showed you and what you provide. Like, if you didn't watch the game and you go and watch like the go and look at the box score, you're gonna like, oh, okay, OKC, they won by 20 the first game. Oh, okay, OKC, they won by double digits this game. It's this easy work. But I think it's things that Minnesota got areas to improve, and where they can be able to look at these first 2 games and be like, okay, we right there. We just need to take fine tune the little things and capitalize, and minimize our mistakes. Which is harder said than done. But props off to the OKC Thunder, with sticking to their identity, being hounded on the defensive side of the ball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the MVP that he is. And I want to say this about Shai. If the OKC Thunder ultimately finish off this run that they own, with them having back-to-back seasons, being the number 1 seed in the Western Conference this season, setting the franchise record for most wins in franchise history, with them being the number 1 team in the NBA, having one of the best defensive ratings, having one of the best offensive ratings, having one of the best net ratings. If Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, with him winning this MVP and the type of run that he's on this season, with him averaging 31, 6, and 5, with him averaging 31, 6, and 5, him getting an MVP, him shooting efficiently from the field, and him winning MVP, winning Western Conference MVP, then when him winning Finals MVP, we're going to look back and have to say to ourselves, is this one of the greatest single seasons that we've seen from a player? That's what that's the type of question that we're going to have to start asking. Because the type of level that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is playing right now, is nothing short of sensational. It's nothing. It's remarkable that he's playing at this level, and he steady, upping his game and upping his level as the rounds progresses. It's not, he's not getting a drop off. I just seen a stat today. And this is his field for a 6th consecutive playoff game with at least 30 plus points. So if he can be able to capitalize this with him averaging 31. 5 assists, 6 rebounds, him shooting efficiently from the field, him winning MVP, him winning Western Conference MVP, him winning a Finals MVP, him having the best NBA net rating in the NBA, him having the best offensive rating, him having the best defensive rating. Obviously, that's a team award, but still, he is the main catalyst of this. Him having them setting the franchise record in most wins in the OKC Thunder history. If he can be able to capitalize this, we gotta put this season that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just had as one of the best seasons, best single seasons that we'd have seen, in recent years. Cause we look at what the Steph Curry's when he won the unanimous MVP and things like that, but he didn't capitalize that winning a championship or winning Finals MVP. So we gotta take these to account. Because he winning every award this year, and he'd be able to get on that mountaintop and get on that trajectory and get on that level and get into that NBA Finals and give it over that hump and win it and being one of the youngest teams to win a championship in history, you know, we got to be talking about Shea. This probably one SGA is probably one of the best single player seasons that we've had in recent histories. But enough of OKC. You know, I want to talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves and what I think they can improve on. 'Cause I said this at the game one. You know, the number one thing is, like I said before and earlier on in this video, they got to be able to minimize the live ball turnovers, man. You got to be able to minimize them. 'Cause to me, that's what's hurting you. Cause if you be able to minimize them, if you get 12 turnovers and just allow, if you get 12 turnovers and 3 of those is 3 live ball turnovers compared to 8 live ball turnovers. Cause if you look at it, 8 live ball turnovers, that's 16 points that you giving up in transition. Where your defense not set, that you just giving up, you putting your defense at a disadvantage, and that's at the minimum. We're not even talking about the transition threes that they getting off of these opportunities when they be able to get these live ball turnovers. So you got to be able to cut off on that. And I want to say the Achilles heel that I just seen the biggest glaring problem to me in these first 2 games for the Minnesota Timberwolves is the third quarter. The third quarters have been the Minnesota Achilles heel. They're getting outscored in these first 2 games in the third quarter, 67-36. So they like a damn near a plus 32 in third and minus 32 in third quarters against the OKC Thunder in these first 2 games. And I feel like that's where they losing these games, because you look at it tonight. You know, the game was, you know, pretty much neck and neck. But once you get down to it, and you really look at it, you know, you get outscored 14 points in the third quarter, and that's when you ultimately went down 24 points going into the fourth. You exert so much energy trying to get back into the game. You know, with the defense that OKC already have, you know, you making it much harder on your stars like Anthony Edwards. You putting so much pressure on Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle to play perfect. You're asking your role guys to play perfect from now on for the rest of the game. Because you look at it, they got outscored 4 points in the first quarter, 4 points in the at second quarter. So they down 8 at halftime. Then you get outscored coming out of halftime, 14 points in the third quarter. That balloons the lead up to, you know, to 20 plus points. Then you win the fourth quarter. But the game is already so out of reach that if you can be able to control that and win the third quarter, you make the game much more closer. Where you make the OKC Thunder have to be able to lock in for a full 48 minutes. Because now you're not just letting them play with house money and play so freely and play so comfortable. They haven't been able to feel no pressure going into the fourth quarter in these first 2 games. And I feel like that's been the glaring negative for the Minnesota Timberwolves in these first 2 games. It's not just that the Minnesota Timberwolves is playing that bad or the OKC Thunder just that much better than the Minnesota Timberwolves. I just feel like they is, you know, obviously OKC, like I said, you got to give them credit. Because they is causing the Minnesota Timberwolves to turn the ball over. But a lot of these turnovers that they giving the OKC Thunder, you know, is what they call it, you know, where it's unprovoked. You know, just careless turnovers, like, you know, unforced turnovers. Like, those are things that you can control. Like, you just throwing the ball away. It was one time I think they had it with, you know, going down 10. They were down 10. J.M. Daniels had got like a steal. You know, Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams was collapsing to him. He threw the ball to Anthony Edwards behind him. Jalen Williams got a steal. He went and got an and one. Balloons the lead back up to 15. You know, things like that. That changed the momentum. That shifted the momentum. Cause now if you go down, you get a score off there. You make it a single digit ball game. You change the momentum and gain the momentum on your side now, and that's what I'm saying. Julius Randle, you gotta play better than what you played tonight. Obviously, I just feel like Julius Randle, you know, him not going this far in the playoff run, you kind of see it now. You know, it's wearing down on him. He said that in game 1 too. He said before game 1, he said, you know, he didn't know how much of a grind this was, you know, to get that deep in the playoffs and things like that. And so you can kind of start seeing like the wherewithal on his body, you know, going through this stretch, getting it deep in the playoffs, you know, going up against a physical defensive hounding team like OKC. And, you know, tonight he just didn't have it. But the thing is, you letting them off the hook. You know, you forcing shots. You're not playing inside out game. Your first shot attempt was a 3-point shot, which, you know, that's not how you want to get your game going. Now, obviously, if you hit those shots, okay, but you got to be able to affect the game in different ways if you want to be able to, you know, contribute. You know, throughout this whole the whole fourth quarter, the Julius Randle didn't touch the court. Your man didn't touch the court. So that was the difference. You know, Coach Finch, he trusted Naz Reid and things like that. Guys that was able to, you know, cause havoc, be able to, you know, get them in, you know, within distance. But ultimately, you know, OKC, they prevailed and, you know, stayed poised and they pushed the lead on a little down further. But again tonight, you get crushed in the paint. You allow OKC Thunder get 58 points in the paint to Minnesota only got 42 points in the paint. 14 turnovers. OKC only got 6 turnovers. So you look at it like that, those are the two areas where you got to improve on, man. You can't just let OKC Thunder live in the paint and y'all living from the outside. You know, especially when the 3-point shot not falling. You shot 39 threes tonight, 11 from 39, shot 28%. First game, you were 25%, 15 to 51. You know, we got to cut that down. You know, 39 3-point attempts, I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's not good. You know, you want to stay within, like, find Minnesota Timberwolves at most in this series, I want to take at least 33s. Everything else needs to be downhill because you see you will start putting pressure, getting guys in foul trouble. You got SGA, 5 fouls, Alex Caruso fouled out. You want to put more pressure on the OKC Thunder defense and not just bail them out and just allowing y'all allowing them to force y'all to shoot the three. Those are the shots they want y'all to shoot because they feel like they don't have enough rim protection or enough size to be able to steady for y'all to be able to steady keep going down their throat, pause, and, you know, put pressure on the rim like that. It's the reason that they playing y'all that certain way. But Minnesota, y'all got a lot to, you know, look at. You know, if I'm Chris Finch, I'm telling these niggas, put your fucking hard cap on and lock in, man. This ain't no time to be playing, man. This ain't no time to be playing, son. We need to lock in. This is the Western Conference Finals. We were just here last year. We got obliterated by the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games. We don't want the same thing, the history to repeat itself. If I'm Chris Finch, I'm not looking at no other quarters outside of the third quarter in the first game, in game 1 and game 2. I'm telling my guy, we are losing this series. We lost these first 2 games in the third quarter. We can't keep allowing ourselves to dig ourselves out of these holes in the third quarter and expect to win these ball games against a good competitive team like this. Come on, man, we got to lock in. Anthony Edwards, he had a good bounce back game. You know, he didn't settle for the outside shot. Once he seen one falling, he put his head down and got to the rim and put pressure on the OKC Thunder defense. Now that he's seen he had success, he got to be able to keep doing that. You got to be able to play faster. You got to be able to go ahead with your move. I like that you weren't just playing around with the ball today. You weren't just doing 1,000 moves before you got into what you really wanted to get into. You got right into it. Once you seen a help side defense, you kicked it to your teammates and you trusted them to make a play or knock down the shot. Anthony Edwards, a good bounce back game, but we're going to need a little bit more. We're going to need your foot on the gas a little bit more. We're going to need you to put more pressure than what you did today in game 3. If y'all want to be able to go back home and be able to win these next 2 games and tie the series up going back to OKC in game 5. Julius Randle, we're going to need you to play more bully ball. We need you to play faster as well, but we need you to also play under control while you're playing faster. We got to be decisive with your moves, be decisive with your reads. Go ahead. If you see you got a smaller defender on you, you don't have to just always just bump him. Go right into him, get you 2 dribbles, then put that shoulder into him. Then if the help side defense, make the right read or finish through contact. Y'all thinking too hard at the game. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you played great today. Dante DiVincenzo, excellent. Naz Reid, I need you to stop living on the fucking perimeter, man. Stop shooting so many fucking threes. You ain't made a 3 all series long. You miss your I don't know who would commentate the game. I think it was Doris Burke or Richard Jefferson. Man, they said you missed your last 11 3-point attempts from the 3-point line, man. Man, get your ass in that paint, son. You got fucking Case and Wallace and shit guarding you. Man, if you don't take them little ass niggas to the paint, your game, your offense start opening up, and you start, being a positive for the Minnesota Timberwolves once you start going downhill. That's why I'm saying Minnesota Timberwolves, they got to get that instilled in their brain. You're not going to be able to beat the OKC Thunder playing their own game. They won't try to take outside threes. They are giving y'all corner threes for a reason. Y'all not knocking them down. Get y'all ass to the paint. Commit fouls. Get to the foul line. Get in the bonus early to be able to muck up this game. Get them out of rhythm or something. Where you stopping the clock and you putting points on the board at the same time. Y'all making this harder than what it is. Now, like I said, it's easier said than done. But the thing is, y'all didn't show me in this fourth quarter that y'all have the capability of doing it. Y'all have to be able to withstand it for a course of a game. Not just the first quarter, not the second quarter, not just 3 quarters of the 4 quarters of the game. The Western Conference Finals is about 4 quarters, 48 full minutes. And to beat a team like the OKC Thunder, as great as they is, you got to play a full 48 minutes. We just seen what the New York Knicks did last night. They didn't play a full 48 minutes and it came back and they bite the dust because of it, man. The third quarters has been killers for the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you take away these third quarters, this series could easily be 1-1 or it can be 2-0. But these third quarters has been their Achilles heel, man. So now you're back against the wall, and like I said, put your hard cap on, put your work boots on, grab all your artillery, the ARs, 9s, Glock knives, paper maches, RPGs, rocket launchers, all type of shit, man. Cause now it's time to go to war, and it's time to get down and dirty. No more of that pretty shit. No more of them threes. Nas Reed, that shit ain't falling. Get your ass to the paint. Dante DiVincenzo, you had a good bounce back game tonight. Mike Conley played well. Played solid. But you need Julius Randle. Jay McDaniels had a good bounce back game tonight. But you need Julius Randle to give you more than 5 fucking points. 2 for 11 from the field, man. Stop. Stop, man. And if you is going to do that, show effort on the defensive side of the ball. You had 5 assists, you had 6 rebounds. But hell, I need 10 rebounds. I need 6 assists. If you ain't going to be able to shoot well from the field, this is what the playoffs all about. Impacting the game in different ways other than scoring, man. Not like I said, third quarters, we just need to clean it up. I feel like, Minnesota Timberwolves, they right there. You just can't keep allowing this gap to get this wide in the third quarter. You're not gonna be able to withstand that punch going into the fourth because you're gonna be exerting so much energy where you're not gonna have enough legs going down the stretch to be able to close out games if y'all do able to get it back closer. But nonetheless, it was a good win for the OKC Thunder. Take a commanding 2-0 lead series against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Game 3 is Saturday night. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Comment section below. I need to see MVPs in the comment section. Thunder fans, comment section. Wolves fans, let me know how y'all feeling after these first 2 games. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. Subscribe. And I'm going to see y'all at the game 3.